Alright, talking about price, talking about comparison, let's shift gears and shift tracks and talk about cars now. If you're somebody who wants to get a new car this holy season, lots of sales are really out there, and wondering if an SUV should really make the cut, we've got the perfect comparison for you of the two top SUVs in the market, Tata Nexon EV and Mahindra XUV400. Here's an overdrive review.
Just like the last time we drove these two EVs, we came away impressed by the presence of the Mahindra XUV400. The Mahindra is a size larger than the Tata, and it does seem to count. Its flatter, blocky look gives you the presence you might want when you choose an SUV. The snazzy copper highlights also bring more attention to the XUV400. While we think LED lighting should have been offered at this price, the plug motifs in the rear lighting are a neat touch. The XUV400 is also the more practical car. It has 200 mm of ground clearance against the Nexon EV's 190 mm, while the placement of the charging port may be more useful too. Unlike many EVs, both give you a spare wheel, but the Mahindra's longer length adds to the boot space as well, giving you 378 litres against the Tata's 350 litres, although the Nexon EV does have a lower lip. But it's the Tata Nexon EV that catches your eye first. It's more than just a regular facelift, with the new bonnet and front fenders fitting in with the much sharper front. The full-width DRLs make these new Tata cars instantly recognizable and is well tempered by the fairly discreet lighting. Specific to the Nexon EV are the chrome strakes in the air dam. These extensive changes seem to gel well with the existing bodywork. The rear is again notably refreshed with the sharp theme of the front. There are some changes to the bumper too that match the front, the vertical reflectors being the most noticeable. Now the modern minimalistic theme that you saw on the outside of the Nexon EV, that's carried over on the inside too. And to start with, you now have a fully different center stack here. And really, even with the last Nexon EV, we liked the play of materials and textures, and that continues here as well. So you have this really quite nice carbon fiber like finish. These vents, the new ones, in the way that they work, they're also quite hefty. So in that sense, it feels a bit more modern. It feels like the car that you want it to be at a price of over rupees 20 lakhs. And compared to this, the XUV400 feels a bit more simple. There have been changes to it also. You have a few more gloss black elements. The center stack, in the way that it's designed, it is a bit more contemporary, but this really does feel even more contemporary in that sense. And again, while the XUV400 actually does feel better made in terms of overall quality, in terms of the heft of the switch gears and some of the buttons, and especially the panel gaps, they are a bit more consistent in the Mahindra. There's a more modern vibe to the space with the two-spoke steering and capacitive touch panels for the climate controls, but there is a price to pay in terms of ease of use. The Mahindra XUV400 on the other hand feels more traditional with its greater use of beige, a sense that continues with the more rounded surfaces, while the steering wheel, which feels almost as nice to hold as the Nexon EV, gets more traditional buttons that are easier to use on the move. A highlight in both is the rich leatherette upholstery and contrast stitching. The XUV400 is more practical on the inside too. The Nexon EV's central tunnel has been reworked. The new gear selector and switches here feel nicer to use, but you still don't get cup holders. The wireless charger is also more logically placed on the Mahindra, while there are deeper storage bins here too. The Nexon EV has a large glove box, but the Mahindra holds more things more securely in its doors. Major difference is the way the controls are. Now Mahindra has gone the old school way. There are hard tactile buttons for the new climate control function. They really are very simple to use on the move, and they are quite different. I mean, the touch panels, the capacitive ones, they look really great, especially when you shut off the car in the way that it just blanks out. But on the move, it could be a bit simpler, you know, just switching between the climate functions. Thankfully, you do have toggle switches for the main functions. But with this update, Tata now has a notable advantage over the Mahindra on the tech front, a key consideration among the quite aware buyers of these EVs. Both now get 10.25-inch driver displays, but it's the one in the Tata that is easier to use. The colors are more vibrant and it's more logically laid out, although both could do with larger fonts for key information. The XUV400 also gets a neat navigation display here, but the Nexon EV goes further by projecting Google Maps from your phone pairing here directly. The Nexon EV's advantage continues with the main central touchscreen, larger at 12.3 inches compared to the also new 10.25-inch one in the XUV400. Aside from the larger size and both employing modern widget-based home screens, the Tata screen is again the easier one to use with its sharper touch responses and more intuitive sub-menus. You also get quite a bit more connectivity like the Arcade.ev suite of streaming apps. Both also give you Alexa integration as well as wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now both cars have gotten new color schemes on the inside. With this XUV400, it's this off-white with these really quite nice copper inserts. And in the Nexon, it's that grey and white theme with the blue sort of stitching. But it must be said that in terms of outright space, and if that's your number one priority, then look no further than the XUV400 because this is a significantly larger car than the Nexon EV. And that shows here, the wheelbase itself is 105 mm longer. And you really do notice that it's also slightly wider. So immediately you notice you have quite a bit more knee and legroom. You can tuck your feet in under the front seats in both. So yeah, in terms of space, 3 adults together fit more easily here, even though both have a central hump. Here, because of the width of the seat and just the contouring of it, the seats in the Nexon EV have been reprofiled to sort of carve out more legroom. But even with their more contoured shape, the XUV still has the edge in terms of outright comfort. So this cushioning itself feels a bit softer. You have a touch more underside support even though the bench is quite simple and flat. Even the backrest, the cushioning we found to be a bit better in this. And then of course in terms of headroom and just the sense of space, this really is a step ahead of the Nexon EV. Now in terms of amenities here, you get a center console in both cars. And now with this update, the XUV400 also gets rear AC vents and a Type-C charger, but in the Nexon EV, considering its very strong focus on tech, you get 45-watt charging for both front and back. Both SUVs here will give you auto headlamps and wipers, wireless charging, a single pane sunroof, 60-40 split back seats and connected tech. The Mahindra also gets dual zone climate control, but the Nexon EV has quite an edge with ventilated seats, 9-speaker JBL audio with sound mode, PM 2.5 air filter, full LED lighting and a new age V2V V2L charging function. Even though both get 6 airbags, ESC, rear disc brakes, TPMS and hill hold, the Nexon EV goes further with hill descent control and a neat 360-degree camera setup with blind view monitor. Having said that, the XUV400 stopped at a shorter distance in our braking test by just over 2 meters.